Hey everybody, Northernlion here, and I am freshly back from PAX. I actually pretty much just walked into the door. I left Seattle at, 3 a.m. local time this morning, drove to Vancouver, took a flight from Vancouver to Toronto, Ontario, and then just arrived from my bus, which took me from the Toronto airport to my hometown. So understandably, I'm a little bit tired, but I wanted to get all these thoughts about PAX out of my head. I mean, it's something we're going to talk about on the podcast when Mike, Josh, and I get together, because Mike was at PAX with me as well. But it would be good, I think, for me to just talk about the games that I played at PAX. So I'm just kind of like throwing this video together really quickly. I don't really know what's going to go in the background. My guess is that it's probably going to be something like Dark Souls Prepare to Die or the Basement Collection, something that I need to play anyway, so I might as well produce some background footage while I'm playing it. But anyway, we're going to talk about probably at length, so I'm expecting this to be at least a decently long video considering the content, about some of the stuff that was really notable that we played at PAX. So I'm going to talk about, maybe half a dozen, maybe 10 AAA games that we played, and then I'm going to talk about a few indie games that we played as well. Just to get this out of the way, PAX was a whole lot of fun. Definitely will be heading back in the future, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more content stuff at PAX, because I think we were kind of overwhelmed by all of the stuff around us. We didn't get to film as much as we wanted to, but we got to play pretty much everything that we came to play, which was really good. So let's start with the AAA stuff. So one of the first games that we managed to check out on the show floor was actually Far Cry 3 from Ubisoft. They were running a really cool booth where it had a pretty substantial line, but it also had like 13 or 14 stations, and basically they just plunked you into the game, which is like a sandbox style first-person shooter if you've never played a Far Cry game before, and you just sat there and played for a half hour, so you could choose to do whatever you want. There were missions on the map, there were like side quests, and there was kind of like one overall mission where you first got started where basically you had to look on your map was out, like it was completely staticky and you couldn't see anything, so you had to like climb up to the top of this radio tower and then hack into something in order to make this like radio tower actually work as the GPS or something. Obviously I'm not an electronics expert here, but apart from that you can pretty much do whatever you want. So after I did that radio tower stuff. By the way, this is the PC build, running with an Xbox 360 controller. Looked totally fine, aims totally fine. Actually, it looked more than totally fine. It looks really good. I don't know how the console versions are gonna look, but it looked so good that as we were watching the people in front of us play, we were like, there's no way that's the Xbox 360 or PS3 version. Like, it just looked too good to be on this current generation of hardware. But yeah, PC version looked fantastic. Yeah, so after I got up to the top of the radio tower, I went and did some cool stuff. Just like ran around, did some hang gliding, did some kind of like, it almost has like a territory type system where the island is run by warlords, but if you run in and you manage to kill all the warlords, then you can take over like a safe house for yourself and you can buy and upgrade your weapons there. I didn't really get a feel for like the progression of the game, if it really is just like 100% open world or if there is some kind of direction going on, because obviously, with any of these games, we didn't get to spend a whole hell of a lot of time with them. But it seemed like there was a lot to do. I really like the driving as well. Like, I died 3 or 4 times in the demo. One time I got shot, one time I think I fell from a height that was too high for me to survive, and then I got in a couple of car accidents. Like, as you're driving, sometimes you'll drive off a cliff or something, and your guy will just die because, you drove in you took a fall that your body can't handle. Also, I was, like, hanging around near, like, the ocean, and I saw a jet ski, so I, like, went to get on the jet ski and figured, I'll explore some of the islands around here, because you are on kind of, like, an archipelago or something. And as soon as I got on the jet ski, this shark started to get up in my business, so I got off the jet ski, shot the shark with my bow and arrow, and it looked like it was dead, but then I went underwater to skin it, because it has kind of like a harvesting mechanic similar to like a Red Dead Redemption or a Skyrim or something. Not just for animal skins, but for plants as well. And then I ended up fist fighting that shark underwater. It was a quick time event, but it was still pretty cool. And then after I beat the shark to death with my bare hands, it ended up causing me to drown because I spent too much time underwater. So, we didn't spend a whole lot of time with Far Cry 3, but a half hour is kind of a marathon in PAX terms. I think Far Cry 3 is shaping up really well. It got pushed back to December, and I'm excited to play that when it actually comes out. Let's talk about the Wii U, because we actually did manage to play probably 3 of the most anticipated Wii U games coming out, and it was the first time that we actually had a chance to sit down with the controller and actually feel like what it feels like in your hands. So just in terms of like interface stuff, graphically the Wii U games we played ZombiU, New Super Mario Bros. U, and Scribblenauts Unlimited. Just realized that that's the only one that doesn't have U in its title, but I guess, I wonder if Nintendo was like, hey, maybe you should call it like a word that starts with U, like Scribblenauts Unkempt or something. Anyway, so yeah, graphically, ZombiU is, I mean, I'm not going to say impressive in the way that like, oh man, it really popped out at me. Because, I mean, Mario looked like a Mario game, which is impressive for a lot of people, like in terms of an artistic direction. Scribblenauts look like Scribblenauts. I mean, it's a game that's coming out on the 3DS as well, so it's not necessarily pushing the hardware to its limit in terms of graphical stuff, would be my expectations. ZombiU was the game that, you know, looked most traditionally like a game where you would say, like, are the graphics good in this from a technical standpoint? And honestly, I think the answer to that question is kind of no. I think ZombiU, at least on the version we were playing, but I'm guessing that it comes out in a few months, so it's got to be pretty close to being done. Yeah, the version that we were playing looked like a middling to good current 360 or PS3 game. So, I mean, it's not a surprise Nintendo's been saying that stuff for a long time, that the Wii U is just going to have the hardware capabilities to match or maybe slightly exceed the 360 or PS3. I think that's accurate, but it's still a little bit disappointing that like the first time you get your hands on new hardware, it's not like an oh my god, this is crazy experience. So for people who aren't familiar, the Wii U controller is basically like, you can kind of consider it like a dual analog stick controller with just like a touchpad in the middle. So it feels alright in your hands, but it's actually a little bit wide. So, specifically, this became a problem when I was playing ZombiU. So we waited in line for ZombiU for about, I would say maybe an hour, hour and a half. It wasn't even that popular. It was just a long demo, basically. So if we had 4 people in front of us in line, the demo probably averaged about 15 minutes a person. So we played about 15 minutes, and I watched Mike play 20 minutes as well. And ZombiU is actually pretty disappointing, I'm sorry to say. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this, but basically this is... Mike described it pretty well. He's like, this is the Wii U's version of Red Steel. It's basically just like a tech demo. It utilizes like every facet of the controller. It utilizes the touchscreen. It utilizes the fact that you can like pick up the controller, and sometimes you can use it as like an X-ray to like scan objects and stuff by moving it around, and your character shows that. And that's all well and good, and it like the touchscreen functions as your inventory, so you can like slide your thumb up to look in your backpack and equip items and stuff. But the gameplay itself is just not that interesting. It's just a first-person shooter with zombies in it. It's not like as hectic as Left 4 Dead, but it's certainly not as survival horror as something else. Like it wasn't like one zombie was gonna end your life usually. Like I think in my demo, which we actually completed, which is weird because as we were watching it, we thought the demo was just like when you get killed, you're done. Like you can play until you get killed, because everyone that we saw playing on both of the units beside us, nobody completed the demo, and then Mike and I just stepped up. Not that we're like gaming gods or anything, but we both beat the demo on our first try. But yeah, like if you come across a zombie, you're probably not gonna die. Let's put it that way. Ammo didn't seem to be that limited, but the demoer was also helping us to find the ammo stock, so that could be something that plays into it. I don't know, it doesn't control that well, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel that satisfying. And this is where the wideness or the width of the controller comes into play, because you're using the right analog stick on the side for aiming, obviously, as you do in like every first-person shooter. However, you also need to like slide your thumb up on the touchscreen to access your backpack. So for me, that meant that I had to like let go, because I guess my hands are not that big. I had to let go of the right side of the controller, including the right stick, to slide up the touchpad to access my backpack, which, I don't know, to me it just didn't feel natural. I mean, the controller itself feels fine, it doesn't feel cheap. It's got a decent weight to it, but I think for a game like this, I would rather just like hit the start button, but maybe that's just my old traditional viewpoint coming into things. So yeah, ZombiU, honestly, it struck me as a little bit too easy graphically. There's a lot of times when you're like in darkness with a flashlight, and that's annoying to me and disorienting, and I don't really like it. But I do like the fact that you can just have like a map on your touchscreen that you can look at as you walk around, because, you know, for someone like me who has a bad sense of direction in first-person shooters, that is a nice change of pace, or a nice feature for me at least. The good news is the Wii U was not disappointing overall. Like, the other 2 games we checked out were New Super Mario Bros. U and Scribblenauts Unlimited. New Super Mario Bros. U, you know, I didn't play New Super Mario Brothers, but this plays like a new 2D Mario game, basically. There's 3 different levels that we saw. We saw some new power-ups, like there's one where you can pick up an acorn and you become like a flying squirrel, which gives you the ability to glide. There was one where it's kind of like Super Mario World inspired, where you can pick up a colored Yoshi, and based on the color of the Yoshi, you could use it for different effects. Like, we got a pink Yoshi, and that kind of worked like a hot air balloon for us almost. So by jumping, we could float with it, and by hitting like right trigger, it would actually spin up and cause us to gain a little bit more altitude. And I can't really remember what was going on in the 3rd type of level. I think it introduced like a new puzzle mechanic. But in any case, it's a new Mario game. You probably already know whether you're gonna like it or not like it. I can't really say that there was anything particularly new or innovative or spectacular about it, but it was still satisfying. It was a lot of fun. The 3 levels that they had in the demo were kind of mind-numbingly easy, at least from the perspective of someone who's played a lot of Mario, but hey, you know, they're demoing to kids a lot at PAX 2 in that Wii U section, so that's totally fine. And I just didn't use the touchscreen on the Wii U controller for that at all, but you can, if you wanted to, play the entire game on the screen embedded in the controller. And the reason that they were like using that as a selling point is, you know, what if your kid's playing Wii U but you want to watch a movie or watch something on TV? You can, and they can continue playing just on the handheld controller that they have. So that's kind of a cool feature. It's not really relevant for people like myself who are childless, I think, and you know, have their own entertainment systems, but you know, for young kids, that might be something that's pretty useful. And we also checked out Scribblenauts Unlimited. I have to confess, this is my first Scribblenauts game, but this was definitely a highlight of the show for me. Basically, there was kind of like, there's a sandbox where you could play around, where there was like, we're in a forest, and there's a hippie, and a logger, and wolves, and if you click on each of those entities, they all have missions that they want to create. So for example, there was one where it was like, I think the simplest one was like a logger, and he's like, help me cut down this log. So you could type in like sword, and it would just give him a sword, and he would cut down the log, or cut down the tree with a sword. Or you could type in, you know, maybe sword shooting crossbow, and then you would get a crossbow that shoots swords and take it down. Or you could type in beam sword or laser sword, which is basically just a lightsaber, and you can cut it down with a lightsaber. Anyway, you get the idea. Basically, it's like a sandbox for you to kind of come up with creative solutions for these people to solve their problems. Like, for example, there were some wolves. So I clicked on the wolves, and the wolves said, if only we could raise a human cub. So I was like, okay, friendly human baby. And I gave them a human baby, and then they raised it, and it became like a savage killing machine. But anyway, that's Scribblenauts. I think you all know about that. But there was also missions, and that was pretty cool. So there would be like a level that has like 4 different people who all have their own objectives. So it started out, I think that started out with actually like the cutting down the tree, and then after that there was like this dude on fire, and it's like, how are you gonna put him out? And I was like, okay, the guy demoing the game from 5th Cell, I think he was from 5th Cell and not WB, but anyway, it was actually really good. He's like, everyone's getting a water gun or like taking a bucket of water or something. He's like, just try an adjective like wet plus any noun. So I made like a wet sandwich or something and then just threw it at the dummy and it put him out. Anyway, and then the last one was like, help the sheriff's deputy with target practice. So first you gotta give him like headgear or something, so I gave him like sturdy sunglasses, and then after that you can give him any sort of weapon that you want. So I made a cat shooting crossbow. So I shot cats at the target, and then the cats were not friendly because you need to modify them with objectives like friendly or angry. So the cats started fighting each other, and I think they ended up killing the deputy. But hey, mission still accomplished. So if I was disappointed in ZombiU, not really super impressed by New Super Mario Bros. U, but Scribblenauts Unlimited is a game that I would buy the Wii U just to play, basically. It's also coming out for the 3DS, but for me, this is the largest selling point of the Wii U right now, is Scribblenauts Unlimited. They were also demoing, Nintendo that is, was also demoing a new Wii game called Project P100. I didn't get a chance to play that. I honestly have no idea what was going on in the game. It kind of looked like maybe a squad-based strategy, sort of like Pikmin or something, but it was difficult for me to tell. I don't know who developed it either. But anyway, that's the Wii U stuff we played. So we're getting kind of to the end of this AAA stuff, but we still got a little bit left to go. Unfortunately, one of the biggest disappointments for me overall at PAX was Tomb Raider. We waited in line, you know, the Tomb Raider line was pretty short by the time we got there on like the 2nd or 3rd day, so I think word of mouth maybe had got around, or people just weren't that excited for it maybe. This is a game that it feels kind of just like one QuickTime event after the other. Like everything, and this isn't coming out until March, so I mean, there's a lot of time for them to right the ship on this one. But basically when the demo starts, you're Lara Croft and you're like, you know, it's the game where bad things happen to Lara Croft over and over, it seems. So she's been in like a plane crash or something, and she's in the rainforest, and everything in this demo is just like a scripted QuickTime event, it feels. So you're like, walk across a log that's between 2 different, that like goes over a waterfall, so you have to cross the log in order to safely get to the other side. And you know, this is something that a lot of games do, but what I was trying to do was actually figure out kind of like the limits of the demo or the limits of the game. So when I'm crossing the log, Lara's trying to build up this sense of danger, like, oh my god, and like there's like wind and rain and the log is constantly cracking. But try as I might, like wrenching the analog stick to the right and left, I could not get her to fall off. So after like a minute of trying, I just held forward, and just holding straight, she just wobbles from side to side, like kind of amping up the tension, but never actually falling off. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves in games, is when it kind of like manufactures this false tension. Like, the tension should already be there, just from me having like minor movements to the left and right. Like, there should be real consequences. As far as I know, you can't die in that section, which was disappointing to me. And then there are just tons and tons of quick time events. Like, you see a dude hanging and you need to get his crossbow. It's like, okay, press like up on the analog stick to lean over the edge and now try to swing him in so you can grab it. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot of gameplay being shown for Tomb Raider. There was just a lot of like walking around. There was no puzzle solving. There was a little bit of hunting, which I guess you could describe as combat. And that seemed to work, you know, reasonably okay, in the sense that like you had a very limited amount of ammunition, but you could find it pretty reliably around. We just used like a bow and arrow. It was like left trigger to draw the bow, and then right trigger, you have like this circle that slowly gets smaller and smaller, indicating your focus. And when it gets small enough that you know you could hit the animal that you're shooting, then you can kill it and, you know, eat it. Because I think it's meant to be more of like a survival game than necessarily like a treasure plundering game. And yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Mike played it too, and he was pretty disappointed with it. Overall, I've never been a huge Tomb Raider fan, but I'm interested to see how this game develops, because right now it looks not as interactive, really, as I would want a game to be. Like, it's almost the opposite of a sandbox, where they put you in an environment and say you can do whatever you want. Here it's like, you can only do this. This is all you can do. But yeah, you know, that doesn't come out until March 2013. So there's a lot of time for something to happen there that maybe is going to improve things. But I think in general, like, philosophy behind this game might be something that doesn't necessarily jive with me or a lot of people. What else did we play? We saw the video for Assassin's Creed 3, and one pet peeve I have about this PAX that I want to point out is that it was never clear, like, what booths were going to be actual demo setups and which ones were going to be, like, demos that you could play, and which booths were going to be just videos. So, I mean, the Assassin's Creed 3 line, at least on the first couple of days, was one of the longest lines that we saw at the entire convention, as you might expect. The other ones were, you know, The Last of Us, which I'll talk about in a second, and Borderlands 2, which was crazy. We went there and we're like, specifically, like, we are not going to look at Borderlands 2. It comes out in 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, 2 weeks to this day, I think. We're just going to get it when it comes out, really, or, like, there's going to be a demo somewhere. So why wait in line for this game that's going to come out in 2 weeks? But anyway, no offense to people who did. I'm sure you had a great time. It was just crazy long. But yeah, so there was like this huge Assassin's Creed 3 line, and we're like, okay, we're not gonna fucking touch Assassin's Creed 3 when the lineup looks like it's an hour and a half to 2 hours long. But one time, near the end of Saturday, we went in because there was actually nobody in line. We had to wait like maybe 15 minutes, and then we get inside and we realize, oh, it's just like a Ubisoft employee demoing the game. Well, like, someone else narrates what's happening over top. So that's pretty shitty. I can't imagine how I would feel if I waited in line for 2 hours for that, and then that's what happened. Same thing I'm pretty sure was going on with The Last of Us. I don't think they had actual stations where you could play, but the lineup for that was, like, around the entire Sony area of the convention hall, which is insane. So we didn't check out The Last of Us. But we saw Assassin's Creed 3. Demo that they showed was probably only about 10 minutes, but there's a lot of really cool stuff going on there. Basically, in terms of the stuff that we saw that's new, the combat system has been like totally revamped, and it now deals more with like a dual wielding style, because the character you're playing as, I think his name is Connor, he wields like a tomahawk as well as another weapon at the same time. And you know, the combat looks fine. It looks a lot like, almost like the combat in something like Sleeping Dogs, where there's a lot of like a countering system going on. And whether this is just a demo or it's true with the rest of the game, I'm not totally sure, but there was a lot of stuff where they like used enemies against each other. Like, you would grab a dude and then like throw him on his friend's musket, so he would get impaled on the bayonet and the barrel would go through his body, and then Connor would like dodge out of the way, and the guy with the musket would shoot the musket and shoot a dude behind him. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I doubt is gonna show up all that often in the game. It feels a little bit more scripted, but it still looked really cool. They also demonstrated some of the new tools that you have, like the rope dart. So basically the way that works is, like, you shoot a dart into the ground and like tie a rope around somebody's neck, and then they get kind of strung up like they're hanging from a tree. So, I mean, Assassin's Creed 3, I think it looks really good. Everybody that saw the demo was really impressed. There's also a little bit of indoors stuff, like, instead of just being limited to the outside of most environments, there were some buildings where you could like pass through. So if you're getting chased, you could kind of like climb up a wall, into a window and then run through the entire building and jump out the window at the other side. I doubt you can like visit all the rooms in there. It's probably just hallways, but still, that's, you know, a neat new addition. And yeah, basically positive impressions of Assassin's Creed 3. I haven't played Revelations yet, but the consensus seemed to be that this looked like way more of a step up than Revelations was from Brotherhood, which is to be expected. We took a look at Dishonored. Actually, the circumstances surrounding Dishonored were pretty funny. So we got a tip from somebody who met us on the show floor that, you know, there's no reason to wait in line for Dishonored, because that was another line that was like an hour and a half. By the way, Dishonored is like a stealth action shooter from Bethesda, for anyone who's not familiar with it. So it's a big game from a big company, obviously. But he was like, yeah, don't wait in line for Dishonored. They're actually throwing this after party on Friday and Saturday night. And what you do is you'll maybe get there an hour early, get in line, and they're almost playing like an ARG, like an alternate reality game, where the game, at least the level that we played, takes place at this party that's like everyone's masked and there's espionage and intrigue. And that's the way the party that we went to on Saturday night actually was, which was crazy. Like, you go there, you get stamped in. There's tons of areas where you can play Dishonored. There were probably like 8 or 9 stalls. Actually, maybe like a dozen stalls total, where like single player stalls where you could play Dishonored for pretty much as long as you wanted, because a lot of the people weren't really there to play the game. But also milling about, there were like Bethesda employees or hires, actors we should say, playing characters from the game and kind of giving you clues to this alternate reality game that was going on. And if you won the alternate reality game, you could win like an Xbox. I'm not sure what other kind of prizes they were giving out, because we actually didn't play the alternate reality game. We were there to play Dishonored. So the other thing was the party was absolutely free, open bar, and all the food you can eat basically. So that was a heck of a lot of fun, and a lot of people there just getting smashed, including us, sadly. But anyway, I spent about 15 minutes with Dishonored, and basically it's not enough time to really gauge my opinion on the game, but this looks like something that holds a hell of a lot of promise. This basically looks like kind of like Deus Ex is maybe the best way to describe it. The mission that we had was basically you're playing as this like spy. I'm not sure what the background behind it is. There seem to be like a lot of mentions of some disease that might be ravaging the planet, and that might indicate like the mask that you're wearing, which you can see in like the promo material for the game. But anyway, so we're this like spy that's trying to infiltrate this party and assassinate this person. But we don't have an invitation to the party, so there's like a number of different ways that you can get in. Like the way that I died a couple of times right off the bat, because it is like similar to Deus Ex, and that like right in the first mission there, as soon as you walk in, they'll just be like, oh, shoot this dude, and if you get shot too many times, obviously you're dead. And it doesn't take too much, honestly. But the way I actually ended up getting in was I like slaughtered the 2 guards outside, and then just like snuck past this kind of like automated AT-ST walker that was like moving around. Not through any special powers, just through like avoiding what I figured out was its like field of view, and then eventually like get in through like a back door or something, and then a gust of wind blows an invitation out of some lady's hand into like a dank part of a sewer or something, and then you follow it down, you get the invitation, and then you can use that to get inside. And I got killed shortly after that, but it definitely it looks like this is a game that is basically gonna give you like a level, like a puzzle essentially, and it's like, you know what? Figure it out. You've got all these powers at your disposal. Like you can control people's minds. You can, summon like a huge hurricane or like not a hurricane, but a big gust of wind to come in. I'm not sure if I actually used that to get the invitation. I honestly can't remember. And you have all sorts of like cloaking powers and stuff like that. You know, similar to the augmentations you would see in a Deus Ex. But yeah, you basically like, here's your puzzle box. Figure it out. Do what you can, and accomplish as many of those side objectives as you can. So this seems like a game that could be a hell of a lot of fun. I didn't spend enough time with it to really gauge it, but it comes out in just over a month, so that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to. And also, we saw The Cave. This is the last AAA game that I'm going to talk about, but this is Double Fine and Sega's new puzzle platformer, basically. And the way this works is essentially, I can't remember if there's 9 or 8 or 7, but you have like a squad of individuals, and each one of these individuals has their own special power. So basically, like, you can be a hillbilly, and the hillbilly's power is that he can like blow a snot bubble that will go around his head, and this will allow him to breathe underwater so he can't drown. Or you can be like this futuristic kind of lady who, when you hold the power button, it actually allows her to like travel forward through time, or like phase through walls. Maybe it was kind of unclear as to what was going on, but anyway, that's an idea of the sort of powers that you might come across. And the cool thing about The Cave, at least in terms of design or like advertising material that we were told, is that it's like a standard puzzle platformer. However, because of the squad-based mechanic, you can complete like any level with any combination of those characters. So in the level that we had, you were only able to take 3 different characters with you. So we took like the lady that can phase through walls, we took the hillbilly who can breathe underwater, and we took like these Siamese twins who I think create like a lure that you can use to bait out enemies. But you know, there's other characters like monks and librarians, scientists, stuff like that that you can take with you. And if that's actually true, if you can actually complete every single level with any combination of characters, that's really cool. I mean, if it didn't work like that, then that'd be pretty shitty if you got like halfway through a level and were like, oh, I can't beat it. But anyway, that's the way it was explained to us. To be honest with you, the cave demo was too short. I mean, it was probably like 20 minutes long, but it was too short for us to really get a feel for how that's going to work in the game, because the puzzles that we had to deal with just seemed like standard puzzle platformers type stuff. You know, like get the battery, put the battery in the unit, that'll power up the crane, use the crane to like pick up the enemy. Anyway, I mean, it was fun, but we didn't really have a chance to use any of those powers, which is really what's going to make the game unique and not just like Trine or something. Not that there's anything wrong with Trine. That was also being demoed on the Wii U, by the way, Trine 2. But yeah, you know, Cave looks interesting. There's still a long way to go on that. This is the first demo that they were showing. But yeah, seems cool. It's Double Fine. It's not as Double Fine-y as a lot of Double Fine games, at least not so far, but it is still funny. And I'm looking forward to seeing how, you know, progress works on that. So we're going to talk about indie stuff. This probably won't take me as long, even though I think I have a couple more games. But I'm going to take a sip of my water here because I'm getting a little bit dehydrated. Thanks to that Dishonored party a couple nights ago. So, the indie stuff. Most of the time that we spent with the indie stuff was at the Indie Mega Booth, which is probably the most fun area for me at PAX. It was basically just like this huge area of the show floor that had like 30 different games and like, I don't know, 23 different developers or something, and they were all like notable indie developers that were showing off cool stuff that has been on my radar for a long time, and probably a lot of your radars for a long time as well. Before we talk about the Indie Mega Booth, let's just quickly mention Spy Party, because Chris Hecker was there taking a look at Spy Party. I really wanted to talk to him, I just didn't get a chance. Like, we were going to talk to him in the middle of Saturday, but like, right as I was about to go up and be like, hey Chris, he like had somebody show up and just deliver him a sandwich, and I was like, oh man, that's terrible timing. But anyway, the news on Spy Party is that there's been this huge graphical update where basically the game is not going to look like a work in progress anymore. Like, it's always been placeholder graphics, and that's been the main complaint that people have had when they've seen gameplay of Spy Party. You should look up, like, just Google Spy Party graphical update. It's going to look a lot cooler. Now, unfortunately, that was not being demoed at PAX. It was still using the work in progress graphics. But that's just like, just to keep you guys updated on what's happening with Spy Party. I still have no idea when it's going to enter open beta. I still have no idea when the closed beta is going to go wider. And I have no idea when this game is going to come out. But progress is still being made. It's not abandonware or anything, obviously. But anyway, back to the Indie Mega Booth. So, here we played, not in order of importance or even in order of when we played them, but we played Runner 2, which is the sequel from Gaijin Games to Bit.TRIP Runner. But they've taken Bit.TRIP out of the name. I think they're just done with that stuff. That might have been tied to their Nintendo exclusivity that they had for a while. But anyway, Bit.TRIP Runner 2, which is what I'm going to call it anyway, looks exactly the same as Bit.TRIP Runner 1, except they changed the aesthetic a little bit. Like, instead of being all seemingly, I guess it's kind of hard to explain. Instead of being like all rainbowy and kind of like Daft Punk Technicolor, but not really. Anyway, it just looks a little more colorful, a little bit more earthy, in my opinion. And really, like, that graphical update is all I need to get me interested in Bit.TRIP Runner. It's still a great game. I managed to spend probably about 15-20 minutes with it, and that was basically just me beating one level. So I jumped into a level that was not one of the earliest levels, but, you know, not far in the game either. Just maybe like a first, third level or something like that. Like a World 3 or World 2 or something. And the game's still hard, right? It's a game where, you know, you don't necessarily have a lot of elements coming at you at one time, but you have to be absolutely perfect. If you're not perfect, then, you know, you're missing out. You're going to be sent back to the front, basically, or back to the start of the level. So, you know, it takes you 10 minutes to get kind of a feel for how the rhythm of the level is going to go, because obviously it is sort of a rhythm game as well. And then another 5 minutes to actually execute it perfectly. Plays fine. Plays exactly the same as Bit.TRIP Runner. If you're not a fan of Bit.TRIP Runner, you're not going to be a fan of Runner 2, but I think if you're a fan of Runner, you're going to be a fan of Runner 2. Sorry if that doesn't really help you out. No idea when it's coming out, but anyway. One of the highlights for me at the show was a game that's coming out this Friday from Klei Entertainment, Klei. These are the dudes who made Shank and Shank 2, obviously. And this is Mark of the Ninja, so this is coming out this Friday on Xbox Live Arcade, and it kind of goes in a different direction than Shank. Not a totally different direction, but definitely this is not like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. What it is a side-scrolling 2D stealth action game, which is something that you don't really see all that often anymore. So basically you play as a ninja, and you have to be ninja-like in your actions and activities. So you have items like a grappling hook. You can throw darts, and the darts can be used to either injure enemies, usually not kill them, but you can injure enemies, or more interestingly, you can use them to kind of like ricochet off environmental objects, and this will create a distraction that will allow the guards, or allow you to sneak up on guards as they like turn away from you to look at maybe, you know, that light that you just shot at with your dart, or this bell that you just hit to cause like a ringing sound. So the thing I really like about Mark of the Ninja, graphically, very Shank-like, which is cool. I mean, even when people were complaining about the repetitive nature of the gameplay in Shank, everyone always praised like the aesthetic, and it definitely seems like that kind of comic-y style is carrying over to Mark of the Ninja. It doesn't seem like it is carrying over to Mark of the Ninja. But beyond that, it has a different feel than a lot of games that come out these days, like a 2D stealth action, and every element is like super clear. And what I mean by that is, like in a lot of stealth action games, I feel like there's a ton of trial and error. Like you're like, oh, I don't know how far that guard can see. I don't know what kind of weapon he has, if he's gonna kill me like right away if I get down there. I don't know how far he can hear me from and stuff like that. In Mark of the Ninja, everything is like laid out for you. So you can like look at a guard and you can see his cone of vision, which is really good. So you can figure out like I can get this close to him without having any problems. You can also, when you're like throwing, let's say you're throwing a dart at a bell, you can, when you like aim over the bell, you can see how far the sound will travel. So you know like, oh, if I throw this dart at this bell, this will trigger this guard, or it won't trigger this guard. But what's cool about that is when you end up in a room with like 2 guards on opposite sides, and there's a bell that will trigger one but not the other. That's when you can really sort of play around and figure out, how am I going to figure like this puzzle out to get into a situation where I'm not going to die. So that was really neat. I was a big fan of Mark of the Ninja. The other thing is, it doesn't like, it seems to have a very low skill floor, if that makes any sense. Like, you don't need to do any trial and error to get like an aptitude in like Mark of the Ninja. Basically, aiming is all just like lock-on type stuff. You don't have to actually like aim. You just mark targets, kind of like a VAT system from like Fallout or something. And then like you hold left trigger, time stops. You mark the targets you want to throw the darts at, and the targets have like crosshairs on them, so you can just line up your analog stick with it. So you can mark like 3 targets, maybe like 1 guard and 2 distractions or something, and then let go of left trigger, time will start up again, and you'll throw all 3 darts, and you're good to go. So you don't have to, like, there's not really like a difficulty in execution there, which is actually cool, because I think it allows the focus to be more on actually your brain solving the puzzles as opposed to your hands. So I played about 20 minutes of Mark of the Ninja, talked to the lead designer a little bit. This game looks really interesting. It interests me a lot more than Shank. Shank was one of those games that I sort of liked, but begrudgingly, because I was like, I don't really feel great about liking this, because it's incredibly shallow, and I really just like it for the kind of aesthetic style. But Mark of the Ninja seems to be a much more kind of meaty gameplay experience with a lot of variety involved. And there's combat as well, but mostly you want to execute like stealth kills. You don't want to take on too many guards right away, because the guards, it actually takes place in like the modern day, or maybe even near future. So guards have guns, whereas you only have a sword, at least at the start. So obviously gun beats sword. If you've ever played gun, sword, paper beats gun, I guess. I don't know. I'm working my brain to try to figure out a solution for that one here. But anyway, that's Mark of the Ninja. Comes out this Friday. Xbox Live Arcade. It's going to be 1,200 points and $15, and I'm definitely going to try to do some content on that when it comes out, because, you know, the game that we played is finished, and it looks really good. Also, he said it was like potentially like a first run through of the game could be like 8 to 12 hours, which is kind of substantial for Xbox Live Arcade, which is awesome. Alright, so now that I've talked, you know, ad nauseum about Mark of the Ninja, let's talk about some other stuff that we played in the Indie Mega Booth. We played Monaco. Monaco is former IGF, like Indie Game Festival Grand Prize winner. I think it was either last year or the year before, because I think last year Fez won. But anyway, maybe 2 years ago. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Basically, Monaco is a co-op. By the way, Mark of the Ninja, it will not come to PSN, because they have a deal with Microsoft, but it might come to the PC later. They said they want to try it, but they have to work out the deals with the exclusivity. Anyway, yes, Monaco, again, stop getting distracted. It's a top-down, co-op, like, bank robbing simulator. So basically, you're given, like, a map and objectives. So your objectives might just be, like, collect all the treasure you can, or they might be, like, steal somebody's passport and then get out of the building. But what's really neat about Monaco is that it's, the 4 players, it's, like, class-based. So among the classes we saw, there's, like, the hacker, which allows the person to, like, hack into computer terminals and create viruses that will kind of follow the group around and disable security checkpoints that they have to go through. Like, you might hack into a wall, and then the computer virus will go to the nearest, like, laser trap, and then it will disable the laser trap so you guys can sneak in without being noticed. There's also, like, the pickpocket. The pickpocket has a monkey that follows him around and picks up treasure. So he doesn't have to worry necessarily about putting himself in harm's way to pick up treasure. The monkey can just do it for him. I'm kind of struggling to remember what else we have here. The lookout has just, like, a wider field of vision, so when he's sneaking around, he can see guards from further out than the other characters. There's, like, the gentleman, and I think what he could do is, like, disguise himself as a guard or as another player when he's sneaking around, so he can just kind of, like, walk by people and hide in plain sight, I guess. But anyway, we played Monaco twice, and I'm still unsure what to think about this game. It's been in development forever, but the first time we played did not go very well, because we played, like, a tutorial level, and then it's 4 players here, like, all playing at the same time, and the 4th guy was somebody we didn't actually know, and he sort of set us up in this, like, accidentally, of course, no ill will, I think, set us up in this level that was, like, the hardest level that they brought in the game. So we didn't really know what was going on, and Monaco's one of those games where when you first look at it, it's very difficult to tell what the fuck is going on, because the interface is very confusing. Like, it doesn't have a traditional map, it kind of just has, like, the map is a blueprint, or even, like, the interface is a blueprint. And as you walk around, your field of vision sort of fills up that blueprint with the stuff that you can actually see. So, if that doesn't make any sense, maybe you should, like, check out, like, a screenshot or something. But yeah, Monaco, at first it was just like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Like, there's all these elements that I don't really understand. But it was still fun to kind of, like, get in it and get your hands dirty with some zany multiplayer co-op. But then we came back on the last day of PAX and we're like, you know what? We didn't really get a chance to dig into Monaco that much because we played that super difficult level. So we got back on with Monaco with, again, a couple of dudes that we didn't know. And I had a lot more fun. We played some early levels. We all got to try out the different classes. There is, like, there's guards in Monaco, and you have the option to either, like, sneak around them, or you can just kill them using, like, what we saw were, like, shotguns, pistols, and smoke bombs. But ammo is extremely limited, as you might expect. So there is a little bit of combat in it. It's got a little twin-stick shooter aspect of it, but definitely it seems to more lean towards the stealth side of things. And that could be a little frustrating when you're playing with 4 people, especially people you don't know, because if somebody makes a mistake, then, like, the whole thing can go to shit. But it was a lot of fun. It was crazy. I feel like I need to spend, like, 5 hours with that game to figure out what's going on, and I kind of worry about its release, because I don't know if Monaco's going to have any kind of single player, and if it has online multiplayer, I think that could be really frustrating. With, like, matchmaking or something. But obviously I think it should have online multiplayer, because who's going to sit down to their PC and play, 4 players on the same PC? That doesn't happen all that often. But anyway, Monaco, I mean, the game itself, it feels like the base of a really fun game is there. However, I'm not sure if, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how it does when it comes out. I think the interface is very inaccessible for new players. At least it took me at least, like, watching it for like half an hour to figure out what the heck was going on. And even sometimes when I was playing, I would lose track of which character I was, even though they're color-coded. And that might be my fault, it might be the game's fault, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do about it, if it's even a problem for people other than myself. But I'm very interested to see what happens with this game when it comes out. I think it could be one of the best indie games of... it's supposed to come out this year, but it gets delayed often. It could be one of the best indie games of this year, or it could end up being one of those games where we're like, man, like, there's something great here, but there's a little bit of wasted potential because of some kind of obfuscating gooey elements, basically, if that makes any sense at all. We played Super Time Force. This is the new game from the guys who did Sword and Sorcery EP up at Capybara Games. And this is as far a departure from Sword and Sorcery as you can possibly get. That was like a quiet, contemplative adventure game. This is basically like Contra, but like an 8, well, I guess Contra is 8-bit, but it's like a colorful, kind of like techno sort of version of Contra, at least graphically. So you're like running and gunning around. It's a twin stick shooter. By the way, Monaco PC and I heard Xbox Live Arcade, but I'm not sure if that's verified. Someone in line said that, and I overheard it. But yeah, Super Time Force. Playing with the 360 controllers, like a twin stick shooter. And the kind of gimmick here is that you have like a number of lives, but it's not like 3 lives like Contra or something. You have like 30 lives, and every time you die, you rewind time, and you can choose like another class of character to play as. So there's like Rambo style, just like machine gun character. There's a sniper. There's a rocketeer who has a rocket launcher and obviously does a lot of damage. And then there's a shield blockerson, which is just like a dude with a shield. So when you die, you rewind and you can pick a new class. So let's say you started with Rambo, then you can take the sniper. And then when you start the game again, Rambo will do exactly the same things that you did on your first run through. So like he will shoot the enemies that you shot, and he'll get killed in exactly the same spot that you did. So one thing you could do is like this opens up like a variety of different strategies. And by the way, you have like 30 lives, and each time you die, it takes a life. So and you have a time limit as well, I think. So one thing you could do is, for example, maybe take like Shield Blockerson and just run through the level using your shield to like block all of the bullets. And then maybe even do that with like 2 Shield Blockersons right off the start or something, and just block every single bullet that comes down. And then maybe take Rambo, and with those 2 shield guys blocking all the bullets, just run behind them, taking out all the enemies that they didn't actually get to kill, and then get to the end of the level yourself. So that I didn't spend a heck of a lot of time with it, 15 minutes maybe, but it seems like a game that's going to have a lot of fun and like a lot of pick up and play value, because the levels didn't take super long time. It seemed like there was a lot of different varieties of strategies that you could employ to try to succeed. The one thing that was weird about it is that coming from a Contra background, it's hard to not play it as Contra. So I didn't really like throw myself in with reckless abandon at enemies. I still tried to, whenever possible, get through the level without getting hit myself. And I'm not sure if that's the way the game is meant to be played. Either way, pretty goddamn fun. So, if in case you're wondering, like, the length of this video, I've only got about 5 games left. I'm not going to talk a heck of a lot about any of them, I feel. We played Johann Sebastian Joust, or Johann Sebastian Joust. It's been making the rounds for over a year now, but basically it's a PlayStation Move game, or a game that uses the PlayStation Move anyway. And it's multiplayer, so let's say you have 6 people, they're all holding a Move controller, and basically it's like musical chairs. So what happens is, like, music will start, and the ball on the top of your Wii or Move controller will be a certain color, let's say blue or something, not that it really matters. And when the music starts, it's super slow, and your objective is not to move your Move controller very much. Because if you move it too much or like jar it in one direction or another direction, the ball on the top will turn red, and that means you're eliminated from the game. So when the music's slow, you're just kind of moving around, trying not to jostle the Move controller too much, but as it gets faster and faster, you're able to move faster and faster and move the Wiimote even more. And what you're trying to do is kind of like a schoolyard game. It's like, keep your Move controller safe while knocking the Move controller of other players out. So like either slapping their hands or like trying to get them to dodge with a little bit too much force or something, so that their Wii, or every single time their Move controller turns red. This is a game that people were like not lined up for, but like circled around all day to see people playing. So it's a hell of a lot of fun. I played a couple games of that. Didn't win, but managed to get some kind of traitorous eliminations. And I heard they announced a new mode with like teams and traitors. I don't know too much more about that, but I have no idea how this game's going to come out. Like, if this is actually something that will eventually come out on PSN or disc-based or something. But as just kind of like a cool application of the Move controller hardware, or the PlayStation Move hardware, I think it's fucking awesome. It was a hell of a lot of fun. Difficult, I think, to play at home, because it's not going to be all that often. You're going to have so many people in your house, for most people, that this is going to be a worthwhile experience. But if you do, for some reason, or like for parties or something, this could be great. We played Skulls of the Shogun, which is PC / Xbox Live Arcade / Windows 8 Surface tab, anything that Microsoft has their hands in, this game is coming out on. And it's basically like 5-second description or 10-second description. It's Hero Academy with like samurais set in feudal Japan, and it has a turn timer. So I played a game of this. I really can't express how Hero Academy this is, but it's Hero Academy with a turn timer, which basically in my mind makes it a straight upgrade. So I'm going to be looking at Skulls of the Shogun a little bit more as it gets closer to release, or as it comes out. Because, I wanted to like Hero Academy more than I did. The fact that it didn't have a turn timer kept games a little bit too asynchronous for me. Skulls of the Shogun pretty much seems to eliminate that problem, while maintaining that same kind of like strategical element that I enjoy so much. We saw Snapshot, which just came out on Steam. Actually came out on Steam the day that we looked at that game out on the PAX show floor. And this is like a puzzle platformer where the gimmick of it is that you can take pictures of things in the environment and use them to help you get to inaccessible areas. So for example, maybe you have a jump that you can't reach, but right behind you is a rock that seems to have no purpose. Well, you can take a picture of the rock, then you can move that snapshot over and then place it and use that rock as like a ledge to jump up to the next level. So Snapshot was one of those games where I kind of had middling impressions of, at least with the 10 minutes that I sat down and played with it. But I bought it on Steam, and there will be a Let's Look At this week. Presumably, anyway. I don't know, there's a lot of content to produce, as you might expect. Yeah, like there were times when I felt like the puzzle elements weren't clear enough, if that makes any sense. Like, and also it did not control as well as I would have liked with the Xbox 360 controller. Like the sensitivity seemed a little bit off. But basically, like I could never line up the crosshairs exactly where I wanted to in order to like take exactly the picture that I wanted to. But I think this is a game that has a lot of potential. I'm going to avoid saying too much about it until I actually get to play more of it. It's a really cool idea. I hope it ends up being executed properly. Let's just put it that way. Now, last two games. We looked at Hawken. Hawken had a huge presence at PAX. They did something with Machinima. They were just everywhere. Like, Hawken shirts were being worn by almost everybody. In every group, there was like one Hawken shirt that you could see, because they were giving them out to anyone who played the game that also registered for the closed beta. So for anyone who's not familiar, this is like a mech first-person shooter. So we don't see a lot of these games anymore, although I think there is a little bit more of a resurgence now, because like what's old is new again in PC gaming to a certain extent. And it played fine. I mean, it played like an arena-based first-person shooter. The mechs felt weighty. They felt like they could do a lot of damage. The acceleration on the mouse, like on moving side to side, was slow, which I actually think was, I'm not going to say necessary, but I think it makes sense given the weight of these machines. Like the top of the mech isn't just like spinning around 360 degrees as fast as you can. Now, whether that was a problem with my mouse, or like a feature of my mouse, or an actual like deliberate gameplay design, remains to be seen, I guess. But yeah, Hawken's entering open beta on December 12th. I'll be interested to see how it works out. Right now, it's a little frustrating to play because your weapons overheat super fast. Like if you hold down the fire buttons for more than 3 seconds, your weapons are going to overheat and you won't be able to use them for a little bit of time. Like an important, like a meaningful amount of time when they're not going to be used, because you will probably just die if your opponent's weapons didn't overheat. So it really forces you to like burst fire and monitor the heat of your weapons, which some people are going to like. I don't know, it was a little bit hard for me to get used to. That being said, I did win my 8-player game, and just for the record, Michael A.L. Fox came in last, so disregard anything he says with respect to that game. Finally, and we're kind of going out a little bit unceremoniously here, not to say that the game is bad, but one of the first games we looked at on the show was PID. So this is an upcoming, really neat, aesthetically looking co-op puzzle platformer that's going to be coming out for PC, PSN, and Xbox Live Arcade sometime this fall. I think they're aiming for an October release. But anyway, the way that this game works, in single player anyway, is that you're playing as this character. I don't know what kind of creature you could call it. It looks kind of robot-like, sort of. And you have a jump, but the thing that makes this a puzzle platformer is that there's a lot of inaccessible areas, but to make those areas accessible, you have kind of like gravity wells, almost like Defy Gravity. So you have like beams that you can throw on the ground, and the beams will propel you in the direction perpendicular to the surface that you put them on, if that makes any sense. So if you put a gravity well on the ground, it will propel you up. If you put one on the ceiling, it will propel you down. If you put one on the left side of a wall, or like on a wall that... Imagine a square, like a square, and you're inside of the square. If you put it on the leftmost wall, it would propel you to the right. If you put it on the rightmost wall, it would propel you to the left. Hopefully that makes sense. And in single player, you get 2 of these gravity wells, so you kind of have to figure out where can I place these in order to like get me around these spikes, or get me on top of this ledge. But in co-op, which is where like the most fun that we had was, each player, you get 2 players, and they each have 1 gravity well, and you have to work together to kind of figure things out. So it's got kind of that element of multiplayer that a lot of people like these days, where it's like half constructive, half destructive. Like you can really fuck up your teammates in addition to helping them if you so prefer. And I don't know, it seems neat. There's some knocks against it. It's going to be local co-op only, as we were talking to the developers. They're like, we're a small indie studio. They didn't make any bones about it. They're like, we feel like this is going to play better local co-op, but we would have loved to have done online co-op if we had had like the resources and the time. So there's not going to be online co-op, but couch co-op, which is okay. Same with Spelunky, unfortunately, but I know a lot of people had the same problem with Spelunky, so it was worth mentioning. And, I mean, apart from that, I guess the other knock was that the co-op story is exactly the same as, like, the single-player story, so there's not, like, a special thing built in. But anyway, it looks cool. I'm looking forward to checking that out more when it comes out. One more thing I forgot to mention. We played the new game from the Behemoth, Battle Block Theater. Game looks really neat. Hopefully, you know, we'll get some more news on the release of that coming out. Very kind of like puzzle version of Castle Crashers-y. But anyway, that was my PAX in a nutshell. We'll probably talk more about this, and you'll be able to hear Mike's side of things on the podcast, which we'll be recording tomorrow. Should be up in 2 days. But in any case, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.